Hi, my name is Derek Murphy. I've been a cover designer for 5 years and I've worked with hundreds of best-selling authors. I've sold about $200,000 worth of book covers, so I have a lot of data in terms of what types of covers sell certain books. And so I'm making this presentation to walk you through step by step what I do to make covers that sell and covers that are going to be the face of best-selling books. The one thing that you really have to get right is that it's not really a matter of a lack of design skills or lack of experience. Almost always the number one thing that authors do wrong with their book cover design, it's a matter of ideology. They just have the wrong thing in mind about what a book cover is for and what it actually does. And almost every author wants their cover to be exactly what they want and to represent a certain scene or something from their book, to really communicate the heart and soul of what they've written. And that's not really the cover job. That's not what a cover is actually for. And we'll get into those. I'm going to put this up as a video series, so we're going to talk about what a cover really is for and also how you can make one with either hiring a designer or even using free or cheap tools. You should be able to make a cover that really sells. So why it matters, everybody knows that a book cover is really important. Everybody will say, of course, I understand that the book cover is a huge part of the success of a book. And yet, authors will routinely make poor cover design choices. In my case, I have a lot of people who pay me quite a bit of money to make book covers. And I say on my website, I'm not someone who will make you what you want. I'm someone who will make you the book cover that's going to sell the best. And even though authors appreciate that and they hire me for that reason, at least I want to say 50% of the time, they don't use the cover I recommend that will sell the most books. Because they're just, the problem with self-publishing, or if you're in charge of your own publishing, you want to make choices from the heart. You want to choose the one that you like, that looks good to you. And that's not really a very good idea, because what happens if you compromise is that you get something that you like, but readers may not get anything that they like. Readers aren't going to spend time looking at your cover. They're not going to think about your cover. It's either going to work immediately to total strangers without any explanation or instruction manual. Like, you can't, I know a lot of authors, they make their cover exactly how they want it, and then they want to explain what it all means and why they made those choices. You're never going to have that chance to explain your cover. So it either works right away or it doesn't. So quickly, a few things. You want to keep in mind that your cover is not the reason you're publishing your book. Your cover is something that helps you reach the bigger goals, which are reaching more readers, getting more book reviews, selling more books, book marketing, getting in bookstores or libraries. That's what you want to achieve. A cover is something that will help you get there. It's not a separate thing. It's a really important piece. When you're sending out email queries to anybody who's, whether an agent, or if you're going traditional publishing and you want to get an agent or a publisher, you may not need a cover. Sometimes it can help to have a really nice cover designed anyway when you start making those kind of queries, but especially when you're sending out books to reviewers or ARC copies and you're trying to get someone to just respond and say, sure, I would like a free copy of the book, that whole process will be torpedoed if you have a cover that isn't professional or isn't very attractive, or is too confusing. There are lots of reasons why a cover can fail, but if you have a cover that works, all of that stuff is going to be a lot easier. Same thing with book marketing. If you're running Amazon ads or Facebook ads, usually those have a cover on them. You're going to get so much better conversions and clicks if you have a nice cover that actually works. And then finally, same thing for bookstores and libraries. There are ways that you can get books in bookstores and libraries. I don't really recommend it because there are easier ways to sell books. But when you're trying to approach anybody to get them to do you the favor of, putting your book in their store or something, having a nice cover is going to help with that so much. So I've been talking a lot about cover design secrets that sell books. I have a book out by that name. I do talks at a lot of writing conferences. We're in Colombia right now. We were in a writing conference in Cuenca, Ecuador a couple weeks ago, and next month we're going to Austin, Texas for a couple more writing conferences. So I'm not, the greatest cover designer in the world, but I'm pretty well known because I focus on not just how to design a pretty cover, but how specifically to design covers that sell. And there's a huge difference between if you're an indie publisher or if you're self-publishing and you are trying to design a cover that sells your book, and then comparing that to traditional publishers who have a bigger marketing platform, they have a bigger platform or community of readers. They don't need the cover to do as much work, and traditional publishers try to avoid being cliched. We'll talk more about cliche later, but traditional publishers have a reputation to protect. They want to do something a little new or interesting, but they will still always get the cover that's going to sell the book. But what I mean is, if you're an indie publisher or self-publisher, your cover has to do more work than a traditional publisher. It has to. Most of your sales are going to be online. You need a cover that's going to attract and convert immediately at a glance. And so it's more important for you to get your cover right than it is for traditional publishers. So basic rules, what does a cover do? I used to say that the best cover is the one that sells the book. And that's not quite true, because when you look at covers on Amazon, these don't sell you the book. You don't know everything about the book, and you shouldn't. The cover's job is not to tell you everything about the book. All it should do is communicate the genre and appeal to the readers of that genre. So genre is mainly a matter of fonts. So fonts tell you the genre that the book is in. The other thing you want to get right with fiction is you want it to have an emotional response, and that's mostly done with colors and contrast. So you can see Rachel Carter's book cover here has a dark figure in the middle, a really strong light contrast in the back. That's really common for urban fantasy. It makes it a little more eye-catching. But you want the other thing you can notice in these covers, which I just took a screenshot of earlier, these were in my recommended for you Kindle books, you don't want too many colors. This one's almost pushing it with too many colors, but it's still done pretty well. Almost always a good book cover will have like 2 colors. So here's blue and orange and yellow, basically. This is purple and yellow. This is red and black. Red doesn't really go with anything else, so if you want to have a strong, generally for paranormal romance or supernatural thrillers, vampire-themed books, black and red can work really well. For urban fantasy, purple and really bright teal colors work really well. Here's another one that's just blue and red. This one's all teal. You really can't go wrong with teal and orange. These are the 2 colors I recommend the most because they just work really good and look good together. And even this cover that's almost all grayscale still works pretty well. So you want to be careful. The colors are really important for the emotional impact. You're making them feel the emotion that you want them to buy your book for. That's kind of the emotional payout that you're promising with your book. But you also don't want to overdo the colors and just throw everything in there. So I'm not sure actually if I finished my thought, which was, what does a cover do? A book cover gets the right readers to click on the cover and read the description. So it's not trying to sell the book. You don't have to tell readers what the book is about or what the story is about or the plot is about. That's what the description is for. But 90% of the time, readers will never read your description because they see your cover like this, and if they don't click on your cover because your cover either isn't professional or it doesn't attract them or it doesn't let them know that it's a kind of genre that they like, they're never going to read your description, and you've already lost that sale. So it's hugely important to get the cover right. You want to be clear and not clever. This is a catchphrase I took from the London Book Fair a couple of years ago. It was another book cover designer actually who said it, and it's just such a simple way to let authors keep in mind the crucial principle of book cover design, which is be clear and not clever. What that means is you don't want something that readers have to figure out, that's complicated, that's clever. You want it for almost all fiction. You just want a picture, generally going to be, a character with a background, or it might be just an object. But generally, there's a discussion over whether you should use people on covers. I'm generally for it. I think you need a humanizing element because all covers, all stories are about people. Stories have to have characters or they're nothing. So even this one, it's obviously about a fallen demonic angel or something like that. This one with the crown of light, it's okay with a crown because a crown is a humanizing element. It's a possession or something very personal that represents a person, you know that this crown means there's a character tied to it. But even so, they chose to put a face up here because generally, I do this too a lot with faces. I cut them off. So you still get that personability, but you don't get the identification. Whereas this one like has a face. Some readers don't like that so much, especially if it's a stock photo and you see the same girl in lots of different book covers. That actually doesn't matter very much. It's much better to get. Like this cover, she's selling crazy well. It doesn't matter that this stock photo is on other covers because this is a very well designed cover, and because readers don't really care that much. If it's a pretty cover, they don't really care if they've seen the model, and unless they're looking at the two covers side by side, they're not really going to notice it and remember it anyway. And the last thing here with the basic rules is you want to fit in and not stand out. And what that means is you want your cover to look like the other bestsellers in your category. So you have to do research to know who your competitors are and what target audience you're trying to reach. And then you want a cover that blends in. It shouldn't look just like all the other covers, but it should look like it belongs there. It shouldn't stand out and people will be like, what's this cover doing in this genre? It totally doesn't look like the stereotypical cover of this genre. Some authors do that on purpose. They try to stand out and make something surprising and unique, and that won't work unless you're a huge best-selling author and you already have a huge audience. You need a cover that tells strangers they're going to be interested in your book if they don't know who you are. I'm going to end this video here and go on to the next video in a separate section.